So we got West Point Gold today. Derek McPherson, the president. Please go ahead. Tell us about the company.
Sure.
You can share your screen if you would like.
Yeah, that's excellent. Thanks, Pat. And thanks everyone for coming and taking the time to listen to us today. And there we go. So West Point Gold, we are a Southwest US gold explorer. The image that's hot off the press on the front of this page is our gold chain project in Arizona. And our main target you can see in the foreground there is the Tyro main zone. And we'll talk more about that as we go along. Probably going to make a couple forward-looking statements as we progress through here. So we are a Southwest US gold explorer. Our assets are all in the Walker Lane Trend in Nevada and Arizona. Our flagship asset is the Gold Chain project, which is on the Arizona side of the border. A couple of key things about Gold Chain: it's a district scale project. Unlike a lot of stuff in the Southwest US, we're over 11,000 acres, 600 claims on BLM ground, plus almost 300 acres of patented claims. On one of the targets on that property, we have on one of the targets on that property, the Tyro main zone, we have an exploration target of 19 to 30 million tons at 2 to 3 grams a ton gold. For reference, that's about 1 to 3 million ounces. We are well funded. We just closed the $25 million financing with good institutional support, and so we have an aggressive drill program underway. We're about 2/3 of the way for a 15,000 meter drill program, but about 10,000 meters of assays are left to come. We have a strong, diverse team. We have both good geologists and good finance and capital markets people and good marketing people, and I think that's a key aspect when you're building these companies. You generally have a small team, so you need a little bit of everything. And then lastly, our Nevada portfolio. And so Gold Chain is the flagship, but we do have 3 assets in Nevada. Jefferson Canyon is optioned to Kinross, and it's because it's right next to Round Mountain. We recently acquired Baxter Spring, which let's consider the flagship of Nevada Co. And that's where we're doing the most work. We're going to design and permit a 5,000 meter drill program there. It's bolted on the southern end of Scorpio Gold's claim. So a project company might be familiar with. And then our Tip Top project is also the Walker Lane Trend, but closer to where Borealis Gold is and where Headwater Gold has their joint venture with Spring Peak. In the interest of time, probably won't talk about those in detail, but we can cover them in the questions. A little bit on the capital markets. We have 134 million shares outstanding following the most recent financing. Those 20 million warrants you see are all in the money as we speak today. And for the most part, about 90% of them are all callable and would lead to about $10 million in proceeds if they all came in. We have, as mentioned, closed the financing well funded with $30 million in cash. That financing brought in a number of new institutional investors for us and really expanded this chunk of the overall of the slice of the pie for strategic and institutional investors. On the team, I'll give you a little bit of my background. First, I was a metallurgist. As I joke, when I had a real job, I was a metallurgist. And then spent 10 plus years in mining capital markets, working for both bank-led firms, or bank-led investment brokerage firms, and into smaller cap firms. Finishing up when I finished on the sell side, I was working at Red Cloud. Subsequent to that, I joined the predecessor company to this, also a lead director of OMI. Rob was on the call with me today. Is our key technical person, is really responsible for putting together all our projects. The one thing that I will say, and it's very much purpose built, and how we built the portfolio of projects, mostly led by Rob, is that Rob's an expert in low sulfidation epithermal gold systems. That's what he's done vast majority of his career. And so we have low sulfidation epithermal gold projects. And so that is a key piece, and it is method to the madness. Also on the technical side, we have Mark Reichman. Mark's got 40 plus years in the Walker Lane Trend. So that's not just benefit us because he knows the rocks well, but also from a logistics perspective, he's been helpful. I would also note that Mark was with Corvus when it got taken out by Anglo. And when he first came to site on his first due diligence trip, he had a look at one of our targets called the Frisco Graben, which we'll talk about, and got really excited about it because it looked a lot like Silicon Merlin, which he was part of the drill off for. Now we're hundreds of thousands of meters away from having Silicon Merlin, but it is a positive indicator. On the board, Anthony and Andy basically company builders. Many of you will be familiar with Andy Bowering, who has built multiple successful companies. Brody Sutherland from Talkvan is our directors, leads our technical committee. And then Conrad Nest is a lawyer with San Cristobal Mining. And, you always need a lawyer, so it's good to have one on the board. Zooming into our Gold Chain project, I think Gold Chain is a unique project. Even for the Southwest US, we have exceptional infrastructure. Our exploration office is roughly right here. You could go to McDonald's, from there, pick up coffees or hamburgers, deliver them drill rig in less than 20 minutes. Can't say that about everywhere else in the Southwest US. Additionally, you have Davis Dam, which is a hydroelectric facility. We're about 60 miles south of the Hoover Dam, and that feeds a high tension power line that runs along this 4-lane highway. Additionally, there's another small power line that crosses the property. Gold Chain is in the desert, and so water is something that's very important to us. I think a key element, we have 282 acres of patented claims at the core of this project. In Arizona, there are subsurface water rights associated with patented claims. We haven't drilled the holes to prove that we have enough water to run a modern mining operation, but we do have rights to the water, and we know that it exists because we hit it with our drilling. Lastly, on permitting, many of you may be familiar with the Moss Mine and some of its prior iterations. It's currently held by a company called Mako Mining. Mako is in the process of amending its permits to expand its area of disturbance. My recent conversations with the CEO there, they're having a good time of it with the BLM office in Kingman. Kingman is just kind of right over here. Additionally, that mine was permitted in 2017 originally, and obviously a much less favorable permitting environment. And so, for us, that gives us confidence that in this part of the world, in this part of Arizona, we'll be able to build a mine if and when the time comes. Moving over to the geology, and I hope you'll save your hard questions for Rob later. I remember at the beginning, we talked about that exploration target. That exploration target covers 1 kilometer of the Tyro vein system here. Tyro vein system is a 3-kilometer long fault structure. It looks like it's everywhere that we see it sticking out of the ground. It looks like there's a possibility for mineralization. And the majority of it's actually captured on the patented claims, as you can see here. However, while all the gold is low sulfidation epithermal system, there are different structural hosts. And so if we look at the Banner Sheep Trail trend, which is the green line here, this, instead of being a fault hosted system, this is a series of rhyolite dikes that have created the space for the hydrothermal fluids to come in. It's over 15 kilometers long. We've done, in the downturn, in the lean years, Rob did a lot of really good work kind of identifying these targets, but they've also got some historic drilling associated with them. So at Gold Train Hill, there's 50 meters at 0.5 gram. At Black Dyke, there's 20 meters at 0.7 grams. At the Banner Red Hill Ledge, which is on the patented claims, we drilled 13 meters at 2.5 grams and 3 meters at 10. The Sheep Trail claims have delivered 15 plus 10-gram samples at surface, and Sheep Trail was the highest grade mine in the Oatman District when it operated. And then you have another high-grade sample here at the end of that trend. We know it's not all going to be mineralized, but we know that there's an opportunity to deliver multiple deposits. And last, and certainly but not least, is the Frisco Graben. And this is the target that Mark Reichman was excited about when he came to visit. Basically, you have, draw that line a little better, you have 2 major structures that come through here: the Union Pass Fault and the Frisco Mine Fault. And where those 2 structures are pulled apart, created open space for hydrothermal fluids to come in and fill. The Frisco Graben is a little bit more of a challenging target for us, though, because it is fully blind. What we get at surface is high level alteration. We see well above a low sulfidation epithermal system. And one of the advantages and challenges of our deposit is we don't have pathfinder elements. And so very low levels of arsenic, mercury, base metals, etc. We did drill 4 holes into the Frisco Graben last year, had technical success, got anomalous gold. Actually, for the first time, hit elevated levels of mercury on the property. It's a target that we really like, but we're going to go back there when we have 20 holes to miss. And so not quite yet. And we're trying to get a little bit smarter on that before we go back and drill it. This next slide, we're going to sit above the Frisco Graben and look to the southwest. It'll give you an idea of what the property looks like today. You can see in the foreground here, This is that's the Tyro main zone, which we're going to spend a lot of time talking about in the next slide. That's the Banner Sheep Trail trend, the 2 kilometers of that that's on the patented claims. You can see out in the distance the town of Bullhead City. If you look in the background there, that's that 4-lane highway. It kind of runs along there. Our property package roughly extends down to there and then across the foothills of those mountains. And then if we spin this around out into the valley and through here, you can see here in the foreground, that's that Frisco mine fault of one of the controlling structures for the Frisco Graben. And you can see out in the distance there, that is our Black Dyke target. So zooming in on the Tyro main zone where we focused, I think we drilled about 12,000 meters total on the property. Of that 12,000 meters, actually probably drilled more than that now, probably 15,000 meters drilled on the property. The vast majority, about 10,000 of that has been drilled into the Tyro main zone. We drilled this project in 2021. Initially hit 20 meters at 2 grams, 20 meters at 2 grams out here. Came back and hit 44 meters at 2 grams in 2023. In 2024, we hit 89 meters at 1.1, basically 1.1 grams a ton in hole 30. But within that was 36 meters at 2. Where things started to get really interesting was hole 34 out here. We drilled 42 meters at 2.5 grams gold. But in that, we hit a 9-foot stope. And this stope was from 100 years ago. And we know the old timers weren't mining half-gram material. And so we came back with the RC program in 2025 and drilled 47, 48, and 49 and defined a high-grade zone of 100 meters. Subsequent to that, we've come back and drilled a number of holes into that area, including hole 81 highlighted here. And that delivered us 36 meters at 7 grams. And we've defined that zone over 300 meters in strike length. So what does that 10,000 meters look like in the model? This is it. And so if we look at the high grade zone, so 47, 48, and 49, that's those 4 holes right there. What we've been able to define is a high grade zone that plunges to the northeast towards the Frisco Graben. And you can see that we've delivered a number of high grade holes out here. And we're continuing to expand that zone along strike, and we're going to be expanding it. And the plan is to extend it along depth as well. Extend it at depth as well. This end of the deposit is generally 15 to 30 meters wide, and we're drilled off down to 200 meters. Here at the southern part of the deposit, a little bit lower grade, maybe 1 gram to 1.5 grams overall, and we're drilled off down to about 150 meters. So part of our big chunk of our drill program this year is about delivering the 150 to 300 meter window and expanding this mineralized shell all the way down to 300 meters. And 300 meters isn't a number we picked out of the sky. In the Oatman district, the majority of deposits have had kind of 300 meters or 1,000-foot vertical extent. Why did we focus on the Tyro main zone? Well, it sticks out of the ground. This is what the Tyro main zone looks like today. We're looking at the southern end of the deposit. This slot was mined in the 1980s. As I've said to a number of people, thank God they didn't know what they were doing. That pit was graded about 2 grams a ton. They mined it. They pre-sold the blocks at 4 grams a ton, but they did that without drilling a hole. So it worked out in our favor. You can see here the workings from 100 years ago when this went to patent. That's the 200 level. It's open. We've mapped and sampled that. Now we'll talk a little bit about that in a slide. What you can see here, though, in the Tyro main zone is we get a hydrothermal breccia, and this tends to core the deposit. It moves around between the hanging wall and footwall of the zone, but it extends over the full kilometer. That hydrothermal breccia in this area, generally 4 to 5 meters wide, 4 to 5 grams a ton in the southern end in the main zone. If we go to the north zone, that high grade zone, it runs 9 to 10 grams a ton, similar widths. You can also see here in the walls, and what gives us the width is those veinlets that are in there. And generally speaking, although as Rob reminds me, not all quartz is created equal. Generally speaking, the more quartz we have, generally the grades get better. Show you a couple of sections that are representative. First, this is out here in the high grade zone in the northeast. You can see grades have been improving at depth. There's no promise that will continue, but it is a positive sign that there's still parts of the system beneath us. You can see here that the zone is about 25 meters wide. And so very good. Additionally, you can also see we're still very shallow. We are 175 meters below surface here. And so, as I say to a lot of the retail investors that I present to, we're hitting open pit or underground grades at open pit depths. Going to the kind of the central part of the deposit, zone is certainly wider here. You can see here the pit was about 2 grams a ton here. The underground workings, which we've mapped and sampled, that's 25 meters at 2.5 grams. Within hole 830, we got 36 meters at 2 grams. 23, which is a little bit off section here, but forms the zone, 44 meters at 2 grams. And what you end up with is a core that runs about 2 grams on that deposit. Decent width, 20 to 30 meters wide. However, this zone in this area is about 40 to 60 meters wide. And you can see that we get lower grade out there. And so that's what gives you the width, and you're going to mine that rock anyways. And so at current prices of there. That's the Tyro main zone. That's really just the tip of the iceberg at the Gold Chain project. If we step out and look at it, again, we're only partially zoomed out, what we call the patented core of the project. You can see there, that's the Tyro main zone. That's that exploration target. That's what we've been talking about. We have a number of other targets on the property that we really like. And you can see here, as we look at this, again, here's the Tyro main zone. You can see, what you see on the map here. These are surface gold samples. The purple is greater than 10 grams a ton. And obviously, you can see we have a lot of good sampling at the Tyro main zone. If we switch over to Tyro South, which is probably our second favorite target on the property, I'll let Rob comment whether it's his second favorite as well. But it obviously doesn't have that. But this is a low sulfate epithermal gold system. So we believe that we're just slightly above the gold system here. And why do we believe that? Well, you can see here at the center, there is that one sample. That sample is actually 11.5 grams, but it's not in situ. It's off about a 3-foot diameter shaft that some guy 100 years ago was 60 feet down mining by hand. He wasn't down there mining nothing. And so we know that there's decent grade there. So we've come back and set up on the west side and drilled back across. We've got 6 to 7, we've got about 7 holes into that area now, waiting on assays to determine. And the reason I like this target in particular is that, this drill program is going to be characterized by us proving this 1 to 3 million ounce target. And if we can hit at Tyro South, I think the market can start to impugn a lot larger potential. My view is, and I'm way definitely a forward-looking statement, I believe there's 3 to 5 million ounces of potential here based on all the targets that we have, but we got to prove that. And, the first step is testing some of these step-out targets. Additionally, we have tested a target called Black Dyke, which is out here. We've tested the Sheep Trail Edge again. We drilled it in 2023. We think the holes came up a little bit short of the target. And so drilled some deeper holes to see if we can hit the zone there. And, there's also a target called the Red Hill Ledge. And the Red Hill Ledge is interesting because it's actually kind of combined with Tyro South. And this will kind of be my last comment that we're testing. So we're looking at Tyro South in long section, but Tyro South is floored by the Red Hill Ledge here. And you remember at the beginning, we drilled 13 meters at 2.5 grams and 3 meters at 10 grams at the very top of the Red Hill Ledge. Well, the Red Hill Ledge, it has a proper 450-foot shaft on it that was, from 100 years ago. And so we believe, obviously, that intersection where you have these two structures that come together like a T is another high potential target. And so I was testing Tyro South. That's the opportunity. And so that is the Gold Chain project, the opportunity that we think we have in front of us. What to expect from us? Our drill program, 15,000 meters, is ongoing. We have probably 35 holes that are drilled yet to come. We're going to deliver a maiden resource towards the end of this year. We have some additional metallurgical testing to come out in Q1. And on our other projects, we're hoping that Kinross gets Jefferson Canyon drilling approved, and they'll be drilling this summer. And on Baxter Spring, we're going to design and permit a 5,000 meter drill program. Thanks, and I'll take your questions.
All right, great. Who's got questions first? Brent, you're first. Go ahead.
Yeah, I finally found the hand. Thank you. I guess what I'm wondering about, a few things. just to the south of you, I think it's Arizona Gold and Silver and their Arabian mine. How close is that to you, and does that actually come onto your project?
It's adjacent.
Yeah, it's directly adjacent. So their land package, and this is going to be a bad drawing, so I apologize for it in advance, Brent, is basically kind of right there. And they're testing the Arabian vein, which is there and kind of just south of our property, is a northeast structure very similar to what we're drilling at Tyro. And there's another one out here at the Catherine mine. There's also a northeast structure that's historically been mined.
All right. And at Frisco Graben, that is intriguing to me as well. How deep have you drilled that beneath the surface? I mean, how deep are you into that system?
About 300 meters maximum.
You know, what, are you
And
seeing? What do the rocks look like?
We're seeing, for the most part, opal and silica hematite and varieties of clay. Relatively anomalous mercury, and then on a couple holes on the flooring structure, which is the Frisco mine fault, we had some very low level but anomalous gold samples.
And so is there a Frisco mine?
Yeah, there is. It's you follow the Frisco mine fault back to the southeast about 2 kilometers, and Frisco Gold has the Frisco mine. The alteration sitting above that mine is identical to the alteration we have in our prospect. They occupy a very small portion of that structural package. That same alteration can be chased for a few kilometers within the Frisco Graben. The Graben is defined by 2 bounding structures, the Union Pass Fault and the Frisco Mine Fault, and they coalesce to the northwest and merge into a single structure, which I call the Union Pass. That structure extends for several kilometers to the northwest and to the edge of the property. There's several gold prospects along that, which we're currently exploring, defined by hydrothermal breccias, silicified rhyolite dikes, adularia replacement, and again, low-level gold values up to a couple grams per ton.
Okay, and lastly, I'm wondering about this Tyro northeast. The grade is great. I'm wondering, what are the rocks like? I mean, how fractured and busted up are they in terms of thinking of this as an underground mining operation?
They're not broken up at all. Our drilling contractor considers it some of the best drilling they've ever done. It's very compact Precambrian granite, lightly altered, chlorite quartz, very few voids. The mineralized zone is a fairly dense quartz, calcite, adularia vein. The individual vein is up to, maybe 15 to 20 meters wide. The overall mineralized package in the hanging wall is several meters to an additional 20, 30 meters in the hanging wall. So it's very competent rock, and which we've seen. The only rock or hole that we had some issues was a core hole. And as Derek mentioned, we encountered a fairly considerable mine working. This was pretty high up in the system, but it was several meters. But that's the only ground issues we've run into. Everything else is very tight, and the holes are dry all the way to we've drilled down to close to 1,000 feet now, and the holes were dry.
All right. Well, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thanks, Brent. Byron King, you're up, please.
Yes. Hello, everybody. A couple of things. This is sort of a question, but it's also a comment. Early on in the discussion, you said that this is a district scale play here. And I think I heard you say that. And so one of the things that was going through my mind is when we immediately started on the details of the project, like, where is the district and what is the district? And we just heard a little bit of discussion about Precambrian, but I have to confess, I am not clear on what is the regional structure here. I mean, are these Grand Canyon sequence intruded sediments? And is this Precambrian? What is this stuff in general? And why is this a district? So that, I mean, if that would be, that would help you clarify from the start what you're aiming at here. But
Fair-
that's my question. What is the district that we're looking at?
Well, fair enough. Let me break it into two parts. Let's look at the district. And we're situated several miles north of the district, best known as the Oatman District. The most recent, if not current producers, the Gold Road Mine. They produced about 1.2 million ounces at 3/4 of an ounce. That is the Oatman District. Now, the Moss Mine, which is in production, that is considered North Oatman. Now, when you get up into the Arabian Mine, Arizona Gold and Silver, historically that's considered the Catherine District. But people sometimes just lump it in with the Oatman District. But technically we're in the Catherine District. And now, the Oatman District is a volcanic, the veins are hosted, steeply dipping veins, northwest trending veins, west-northwest trending veins, hosted in volcanics. As you move north, you'll see that the Moss Mine is also hosted by volcanics and Precambrian rocks. And then as you head north, we are entirely in a 1.3 billion year old Precambrian terrain, invaded by 17 million year old, more or less, felsic or rhyolite dikes, or several facies of the rhyolites. There's a large pluton dated also at 17 on the west side of the Colorado River called the Spirit Mountain Batholith. It may be related. We haven't established that. So the mineralizing event at the Catherine District in our project is considered to be somewhere in the 19 to 16 million year old range, and very similar to the Oatman District to the south. So what we are looking at is a series of northwest trending structures coming maybe part of the overall Walker Lane, but intersecting what they call the Colorado River Extensional Corridor, which commenced, the extension there, it commenced about 19 million years to 17 million years and extended all the way up into the through the Paleocene. So
I guess, and maybe
applies
on
to-
that Black Mountain District, or that Black Mountain Gold Belt Rob's referring to, you'd be looking at projects all the way up to sort of where Gold Basin and Canex are, all the way down to where Minera Alamos' Copperstone is. Would kind of all be on either end of that corridor.
It's a large area that I refer to as the Black Mountain Gold Province, and they're all characterized by quartz chalcedony calcite and adularia veins with very low pathfinder and base elements. So it's really, these are gold silver veins, which is what the Oatman District is. But what we're looking at here is the intersection of a north-south extensional corridor with more of a wrench fault type faulting in the northwest southeast. Structural work that we're doing now is identifying precursor Precambrian structures that are being reactivated at a couple different periods, which are hosting either the Tyro vein or the Banner Mine or the Sheep Trail. So there's a long structural history here, but the age of the district is 17 million. Most of the mineralization that we've identified in the Tyro mine is hosted by Precambrian granites.
Okay,
Did
that's very helpful. I appreciate that. Yeah, so I mean, I guess in my mind, I just couldn't figure out, are we looking at, Precambrian gold, or we're looking at very recent, geologically?
Pretty young,
Gold, yeah, so, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, thanks. That's it for me. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Byron. Ed Bugos, please go ahead.
Hey guys. So on the Tyro project, it's I've read that you're going to put together a mineral resource estimate there, and I'm just wondering how much of the other zones will be included in the MRE, like if any, the northeast, the south, and so on.
Derek, you
Yeah,
want to
so-
address that or you want me to?
Yeah, I got it. So so this is what we would refer to the Tyro main zone, includes the northeast. So our expectation is that, right now where it'll cut off is we're chasing this out to the northeast. So it'll cut off somewhere out here on the northeast on the northeast end. To the south, it'll be here. And we'll stretch down to 300 meters. It's pretty unlikely that we'll have enough holes anywhere else to add to that resource. And so the maiden resource will be sort of what you see on this page based on what we can define on down to 300 meters. And then we'll continue to chase that high grade zone in the northeast and have to put a pin in it eventually out there somewhere.
Right. So, okay. So if you get it up to 4 or 5 million ounces, is that possible even, or?
I know the exploration target, which is down to 300 meters, is 1 to 3 million ounces. I think 4 to 5, just on the Tyro main zone would be exceptional. We'd have to hit some higher grades deeper, particularly in this area. I think overall in that 4 to 5 million ounces, where we get there is we get one of these other targets to hit. And so, I gotta zoom a long way out. That's the Tyro main zone in there. That's that kind of 1 to 3 million ounces that we have in the exploration target. As I said, Tyro South is similar scale of what we're after, but you have that's Black Dyke. That's a target called Gold Chain Hill. This is a target called Bull 8. What you have here is the Sheep Trail ledge that runs across here, and so that's another target. And then you have another target in here called the Red Hill ledge. And so somewhere in this, if we deliver on the maiden resource and we hit out on one of these targets, I think that there's that 4 to 5 million ounce full potential is possible.
And so
And Derek, could you just outline the trace of the Union Pass fault across the property there, and point out that that's also hosting the Frisco Graben target and
Yeah.
several other
That's-
targets?
Yeah, that's the Union Pass fault, and that's the Frisco Graben fault there.
Yeah,
Yep.
thanks.
So what's the rationale then for doing a MRE at this stage? And I think I saw a PEA planned as well.
I haven't promised a PEA to anybody. But I think there's two rationales for the maiden resource. And I think primarily we're in a market where we have a lot more new investors to the space. And so this gives, by putting a maiden resource out, you can put a pin in an underlying valuation. I think also, for us, it's I don't. While I like to leave a lot of optimism in or potential in the story, I am hesitant to let the stock run well beyond what we can deliver in a main resource, because we've seen how that kind of pans out in the market recently, and so and I think there's something to underpin here. The other thing is that one of the things that we have kicking around in the back of our head is that the potential exists, or the opportunity exists, that if we decide to press ahead on engineering with just the Tyro main zone, it's a smaller scale project. It'd probably be Cormark did a great job sort of outlining it. They kind of did 5,000 tons a day. It's about 130,000 ounces a year. It's a milling operation because of the grade. That scale of operation is something that we would have an outside chance of permitting during this administration. And so there is some method to the madness that you would go after that. Now, I think we need a little bit more private land, which there's available around us, but generally speaking, that's kind of our thought process.
You need the more private land for the permitting process to.
I think it's easier to permit infrastructure on private land than it is to
for
permit
sure.
it on public lands.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so, all right. So now let me just ask one question, and I'll let it go here. But if we zoom out, let me ask the obvious question. I mean, this is one of the most overexplored regions in the world, right? Is it not one up there? And
I would disagree with that. I would say that
I wouldn't say that at all.
yeah,
okay.
I would say that if this was in Nevada, it would be a hole in the ground already. But because it's not in Nevada, it's actually relatively underexplored. The last time that anyone did any concentrated drilling in this area before Arizona Gold and Silver got involved is there was when the detachment fault model became popular in the 80s. And there are, I don't know, Rob, we have data we believe there's about 100 drill holes drilled out in the valley here, but 30 feet long, all 30-foot long holes, nothing, or 30-meter long holes, nothing of significance. That's where we get some of the historic data from. This isn't a district that's got hundreds of thousands of meters in it. There isn't, like, you got to think about it, right? If we zoom out to the district slide, just in our district, right? Oatman, obviously, 100 years of production, 1.2 million ounces, as Rob said. Moss is the only modern mine in the area, and that's for 100 kilometers sort of each direction. And they've got, they're 40,000 ounces a year production. And I think, the challenges that they had scared a lot of people away out of this jurisdiction. The only other groups that have done, a significant amount of drilling in this region in the last sort of 20 years is at Copperstone. There was a meaningful amount of exploration. And then would be Canex. But I think if you looked at that kind of 200-kilometer long belt, the majority of drill holes have been drilled by Arizona Gold and Silver and by us. So I think it's really underexplored. And I think that's the opportunity. We're the first group to ever control all 3 sets of patented claims and to control all the BLM ground around it. And frankly, we came in and staked the vast majority of the BLM ground. So to give you an idea how underappreciated this district, or underapproached this district was.
Yeah, thank you, Rob. Rob, can I ask one more question here? Where have you spent most of your time on epithermal vein structures in your 40 years?
Central America. I was involved. I started up the El Dorado project in '93 for Kinross and ran that for 9 years, and it was vended. And then spent several years doing recon in Nicaragua, and then spent 5 years working for Mineros in the Bonanza district. So
Awesome.
just those places.
Yeah, okay, super. That's very good. Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks, Ed. Lawrence, you're up. Go ahead.
Derek, you and your team have done a great job in pulling together this project, the land package, advancing it. You now have $160 million valuation. What do you need to achieve to see a doubling of the market value from here? And what would the timeline look like for those achievements?
A great question. I think I don't know. I think the two big things for us that I think are value accretive for shareholders and will push us to the next level. One is the maiden resource at the Tyrone Main Zone. I just had this conversation earlier today with somebody. If you use kind of $200 an ounce Canadian, just because we're 160 million Canadian market cap, that $160 million is pricing in about a 800,000 ounce resource at the Tyrone Main Zone. As I noted, we think the exploration target is 1 to 3 million ounces. And so I think that when we deliver that maiden resource, I think there's a value creation moment to that. It may build to that by the time we get there, but there's a value creation opportunity there. The second is making a discovery at one of these other step out targets. I think for us, putting ourselves on the path to 3 to 5 million ounces, that makes us a potential takeout candidate for any company out there. And so I think that's an important, I think those are the two big key things for us. And so, what does that mean? What does that look like over the interim as for investors to look at? It's drill, baby, drill. That's it. We're gonna drill. We're gonna spend money doing that.
And what would the timeline look like for that program?
So we're in the middle of a 15,000 meter drill program. It's probably going to get expanded, but we're that drill program will continue probably till the end of May. So from a market perspective, you'll see drill results every 2 to 3 weeks from now until probably July. Once we work through all the assays, maiden resource, my feeling is probably late Q3, simply because we'll have a slowdown in data over the summer. It does get up to 140 degrees in Bullhead City. And so we'll likely slow down the drilling over the summer, and that's a natural point for us to put a pin in and potentially deliver a resource after that.
Sounds great. Thanks.
Okay, thanks, Lawrence. Brian, you're up, please.
Yeah, thanks, guys. I appreciate it. Derek and Rob, y'all have done a great job so far. You've come a long way, and this has been a big winner for the Gold Newsletter readers so far. And Derek, I think you've got a lot more room to go here and room to grow. On that note, you mentioned you're drilling down to 300 meters. Is that going to be, are you basically just constraining yourself at this point to an open pit scenario? And are you constrained further or deeper than 300 by grade then?
That's a great question. And the short answer is that we don't know. The thing with low sulfidation epithermals gold systems is that there is a top and a bottom to them. So we'll keep, Rob and I have had this discussion a lot. Our objective, particularly in this high grade zone, is to keep stepping down, 25, 50 meters at a time to determine where we're going to be. Joe Foster, who's our largest shareholder with Van Eck, he would want me to drill a hole. He would want me to drill a hole somewhere down here, if he had his way. And so I think, as part of this program, we're certainly going to test the limits of it. And so 300 meters is where we want to commit to drilling off for a resource. But we will test deeper. Because, and maybe I should let Rob talk to this a little bit, but the intensity and continuity of mineralization we're seeing in that northeast zone suggests that the potential exists that this thing continues, might have some more vertical extent than your typical low sulfidation epithermal system.
I just want to add real quick. The work to date suggests that the gold system developed during several periods of tectonic activity, all part of the initiation of the Colorado River extensional corridor. And there's evidence that there's multiple periods of gold deposition. It was defined or identified in the Open District 100 years ago, 3 to 4 periods of gold deposition. And we're seeing evidence of that, in that much of our grade in the upper part of the system is hosted by hydrothermal breccias composed of crustiform and coliform banded vein, and which represents maybe 10 to 25% of the overall breccia volume, but also contains 90%, if not more, of all the gold. As we get deeper, we're starting to see more compact veins, perhaps less breccia, and indicating that there's still gold events occurring, or which occurred at depth, that are being superimposed on previous gold events. So if we can, confirm or identify these stacked events, it could take us deeper than what typical low sulfidation epithermal vein system would normally yield, of 200 to 400 meters. Keep in mind that Oatman, they were able to take their high grades down to about 400 meters based on similarity of the mineralization, paragenesis, geothermometry, etc. We could probably expect the same thing. Now, if you start stacking multiple hydrothermal events, one on top of the other, while the whole system is collapsing due to extension, you could create a scenario where you're depositing gold on top of gold on top of gold. So it could take us a little deeper, or quite a bit deeper. We don't know. As Derek pointed out, we just need to pick at it and take it in lifts. I'm not a real home run type person. It's painful when you when you lose, I'm trying to step out methodically here and add to our knowledge base and hopefully to our resource.
Yeah, Rob, I'm a shareholder and I'm kind of a home run person, so I wouldn't discourage one of these deep holes from my standpoint.
I understand that. But I got to know enough to be able to explain
Yeah.
both why and why not, and in terms of the results. And so if I feel like I really understand the system and what's going on, I'll step out.
I think Brian, to answer your question, we will get there, assuming that the holes above it,
Yeah.
if the zone continues, the holes above it, we're going to keep chasing it to depth until the system stops.
Yeah.
But it's
Something that you're taking it step by step. Just one last quick question, Derek. When I looked at this company before you even started drilling gold chain, I was just as excited about your Nevada portfolio. Could you, for our audience here, could you touch on that very briefly?
Or yeah, we've got 3 assets in Nevada. So in and around Tonopah, we have our Baxter Spring and Jefferson Canyon project. Baxter, this would be kind of off the southern end of Scorpio Gold's claims. And then Jefferson is kind of surrounded on 3 sides by Kinross. We acquired Baxter in last year. And part of the reason we acquired Baxter is that the main target is on BLM claims. Those of you familiar with the Southwest US or the US know why that's going to be a lot easier to permit in this area. Main target is sort of there. This asset, it has good provenance. It was originally held as 1% NSR to Liberty, which was Pilot, and then Frontier before that. 128 drill holes. All of our Nevada projects have 100 plus drill holes, and all of them have returned economic grades. And so you can see the highlight there. We really like this project. We think that it's a good opportunity. We've got, what we're doing right now is in the process of designing a 5,000 meter drill program for it. Jefferson Canyon, similarly, right in 100 plus drill holes. There's 145 holes here. It's right next to Round Mountain. Actually, if you stand up where this hole was drilled on the B zone, which is sort of right there, you can see into the pit at Round Mountain. Notably, this is a 4 square kilometer golden soil anomaly. That's work that Rob did. The Round Mountains, its footprint is 5 square kilometers, just for reference. If we have 20% of what Round Mountain had there, it's a home run, but or 80%, not 20%. If we have 20%, it's probably a home run. Kinross has to spend $600,000 on the option agreement. They don't earn anything for that, and they're responsible for all the underlying option payments we have on Jefferson Canyon right now. If they want to earn an interest in the project, it's US $5 million for them to step into the for them to earn a 70% interest, and then US $5 million for them to get to 80%. But that is a check to us, not a commitment in the ground. And then we're in a joint venture. If we get diluted below 10%, it's a 1% NSR for us. And then lastly is our Tip Top project. So this is in the same area that the Borealis mine is, or the Aurora mine, and along with the Aurora mine. And then also there's Headwater Gold has its Spring Peak joint venture with Newmont there. Again, 100 plus drill holes, some spectacular grades, mostly drilled kind of right in there. Work that Rob did, 3 kilometer golden soil anomaly here. Good project. This is one we get the most sort of outside interest in. So any one of those projects could probably maybe save Jefferson that's optioned to Kinross, could carry a company in its own right, especially in this market. We're very cognizant of that and are certainly as we advance gold chain towards development, looking at ways to monetize this for the benefit of shareholders.
Good. That's it for me. Thank you.
Brian, great. Thank you very much. Adrian Day, you're up.
Yeah, hi. 2 questions, if I may. First one, just a quick one. Sorry, I missed the map. Is Baxter, is that contiguous to Manhattan? Is it part of the same?
Yeah, so there's a part of the Scorpio claims right in here called Betty East, which is right there. So it's contiguous to the north.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Manhattan Manhattan would be like that kind of. It doesn't quite show up, but it's there.
No, gotcha. Okay.
And they have a bigger claim package than we have here, but yeah.
Yeah. Have there been discussions with them about possibly acquiring, merging, joint venturing?
We have not.
Okay.
They've really just sort of got off the ground. So as have we. We've been focused elsewhere. So we haven't yet. No.
Okay. Sorry, my main question, just changing the subject a little bit. You mentioned you just done a financing, you're well funded, but can you, how much cash do you have now? What's the budget for, let's say, the next 12 months, both drilling and non-drilling budget? Oh, there we are. Did you show this earlier? Did I miss it?
I did. Yeah. No, I did.
Oh,
yeah. So
I'm sorry.
that's okay.
Okay.
So we have about $30 million in cash today, Canadian. So not a lot less in real money. Or I guess maybe not real money in US dollars. You know, what I would say is that that money, you know, depending on how aggressive we are in drilling, that's sort of 18 to 24 months budget, the majority of which we'll be drilling. And with a balance, you know, so there's sort of three buckets that we group into on, and this, I'm going to say this in Canadian dollars. There's obviously G&A, marketing, and then drilling. We're probably $1.5 million a year right now in G&A because we've been expanding the team. We're about, you know, budgeted right now is sort of $3 to $4 million this year in marketing, and the balance is going to be, you know, probably 10 to 15 million in exploration.
Okay. And then I see a footnote, some of the warrants come due this year, right?
This is the warrant breakdown.
Oh,
So,
thank you. Thank you.
so there's a small number that come due here at the end of April. The big chunk are these 40s and 45s. These all come due in the fall this year. So kind of, sorry, not there.
Okay.
Those 40s and 45s, those all
Yeah.
come due in the fall this year. That'll bring in about, I guess, $4 million on its own.
Sure.
And then the balance here, the next big chunk of these 55-cent warrants. The one thing I would note, the majority of those are held by Van Eck, so they're a hold to the end. As of right now, everything I've just marked has an accelerator on it that I could call if I wanted to. But it is about 19 million shares though, so we're not in a big rush to, you know, we do trade pretty well, probably trade 5-6 million shares a month. But what I would say is that I don't think we can absorb the 20 million shares in a 30-day period if we called all those warrants. So they've been coming in pretty steadily. Actually, in Q4, we got $3.3 million exercised, and that about $1 million a month, and that represented, you know, we actually finished, despite drilling 5,000 meters, we actually finished Q4 with more money than we started it with. So, which is a nice change.
Yeah, but no, that's good. That's good. Thank you. That's it for me. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Adrian. Gary, go ahead.
Yeah, Derek, great presentation. Really appreciate you guys. I got a couple of questions. Any plans for additional non-dilutive funding or partnerships coming up aside from what you've already done?
No. You know, one of the advantages that Gold Chain has, and we didn't really talk about it, but Gold Chain has very light royalties. There's a 2% NSR that covers this portion of the property, roughly. There's a 1% NSR on Tyro and a 1% NSR on Banner, and everything else is royalty free. That's a huge advantage relative to a lot of stuff in the US. I have no interest in encumbering the project in the short term, especially in a market where I have where the access to capital has been significantly better. This is significantly improved.
Okay. On the Kinross deal, with the proximity being so close, I think it said about 7 kilometers from the Round Mountain operations. How does the proximity influence the upside, if at all?
I think what the proximity influences is that if there is even a small discovery there, Kinross is going to be motivated to put it in production. As you know, Round Mountain, I think they're on as I think the last phase is phase X that they just announced on Round Mountain, which is a 3 million, or sorry, as a 3 gram. I think it's either 3 million ounces or 3 grams. I can't remember off the top of my head, but it's an underground. It's the next move is underground at Round Mountain. Round Mountain is 300,000 ounces a year for Kinross, big chunk of their production. And so they've been doing deals up and down the valley to see projects advance so that they could get so that they could potentially get feed, right? The part of the deal on Scorpio Gold is that, you know, it was kind of us or them had to explore it. And so they They, you know, it ended up being Scorpio. They're invested in Viva. They did a deal with, I think it's called A2 now, Gold. And they've done the deal with us. And so they're looking, and they have another project in that same valley. So they're looking for longer term feed. So I think the proximity to Round Mountain, the primary thing is that, you know, the hurdle rate for it becoming a hole in the ground is lower.
Okay. Finally, yeah, the market cap obviously took an incredibly positive turn around July, August. It went from about 30 million to today's 120 million. Was there anything internally that happened aside from the big run up in gold prices?
What happened is in June, we did a financing. It was 45 cents with a 55-cent half warrant free trading. This, and while a lot of it went to Van Eck and some other good funds, that we had to trade through that. Additionally, for us in the summer, we're slower news flow because of, as mentioned, Gold Chain. We slow down our drilling at Gold Chain. Weren't in a position to ramp up exploration anywhere else at that point, and so that leaned on the stock. But what happened is that, you know, in September we put out an updated exploration target, so that 1 to 3 million ounces, and then we started drilling, and you can see that subsequently with drill results, that's what drove the stock higher. Obviously, the gold price going up had a really positive impact as well, and so that benefited it. This is right before Christmas. We put out some really good drill results that sort of carried us over the holidays. This holiday season, as you guys know, was very unusual with respect to how much trading occurred and share price moves and things like that. We were able to do the financing in January. So yeah.
All right. Thanks, Derek. Appreciate it.
Okay. Looks like just a couple questions left. Mickey, go ahead, please.
I'm a bit confused with your market cap. I'll address this to Derek first. 134 million shares. I'm showing $1.49 Canadian today, which my calculations, that's a $200 million Canadian market cap. Am I missing something there?
You could be right. The stock, when I came on, the stock wasn't that high earlier today. But
well, you know, I think it opened at $1.44, and
yeah.
So
we were around $1.30 for a long time. So that's on me. I apologize, but you're
okay.
I'm sure you're right.
So,
I'm sure the math is correct on that.
Okay. All right. And my second question will be addressed to Rob. I'm a geologist, so this is a question on the exploration target. And so I'm curious how you got an exploration target at Tyro of 19.5 to 31.2 million tons. Where's that come from? Looks to me you got a few significant figures there.
Well, Derek, you might want to address that. But I mean, it's basically taking the strike of our target defined by early drilling, by the width of the intercepts and projected to a particular depth, which I believe was 150 meters. And the numbers just came out that way.
Okay, so 150 versus, and that
it is 300. It's projected.
Yeah,
to
so
that's 300. Okay.
Okay.
So originally it was 150.
So Mickey, to answer your question on significant digits, the round numbers that we're using to define it are the widths and the depths and the length, right? But that when you translate that through, well, I think we use 2.6 as the density, then it makes it a roundable number.
Okay, so being a kind of a devil's advocate here, I would say that would assume 100% occupancy factor, which is, in my mind, probably not realistic. And also the question would be, are you going to be able to open pit mine to 300 meters? You know, most times people are using 200 meters on an open pit, initially anyway.
I think there are two elements to that. You're right, but that's why that's why there's a width on the range. That's why when we came up with that number, I think the actual range is 20 to 40 meters that we used, which is we're wider in zones and we're narrower in a couple other zones. So it is certainly an estimate on the exploration target. As far as the depth goes to 300 meters, I think that will depend on the widths that we see as we go down. Right now, at 40 to 60 meters wide at the grades that we're seeing in the southern part, I certainly think that there's a possibility that would open pit to depth, and that your grades would be enough to carry the pit down there. I think as we're getting narrower at the bottom of the high grade zone in the northeast, now we're down 200 meters. I think the zones tend to fit. We've got a couple holes where the true width's probably 10 to 15 meters. Strip ratio might get a little bit too lopsided. You might want to switch to underground, but I think that will all depend on how deep the zone carries as well. If the zone carries to 300 meters, only carries to 300 meters and stops, then I think that there's an opportunity. Then you would probably open pit it to 300 meters. If the zone carries to 500 or 600 meters, and we might cut it off sooner and switch to underground. But I think you gotta let the data drive that result.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Thanks, Mickey. Graham Summers, please go ahead.
Hi, Derek. First of all, I wanted to congratulate you guys on your turnaround the last couple of years. I guess my big question for you is in terms of your vision for the company. Is your hope to, what is your vision of success in the next, say, 3 to 5 years? Is it that you want to become a producer, or are you looking more to sell to a major down the road?
I guess from that perspective, our vision is to create value for shareholders. That's our objective primarily. What we want to, how we do that is going to depend on what happens. My view of the world, and this is much like a lot of you guys. Any company that finds something and then puts the for sale sign up generally doesn't generate maximum value for shareholders. And so our objective is to continue to advance the project. We have a team built for exploration right now, and we'll continue to do that. And I think we have a lot of exploration to do still. But I think as we advance the project, we're gonna have to move to engineering, and we'll have to expand the team to match that. But we'll continue to advance the project until someone wants it more. I think in an ideal world, from a risk perspective, the best case outcome is a sale to a larger company, but at the same time, I would say we can't just put out this resource and then hope someone comes and takes us out for a premium. I think we got to keep advancing towards that end. So I own about 2 million shares of this company, and so whatever turns that 2 million shares into max value is what I want to see.
Okay. Doug, you're up. Go ahead. You can wrap it up for us.
Graham just asked part of my question, what's the exit strategy? And it's a good answer. But all the answers that I've heard to all the questions, I thought were excellent. So I'm really pleased with that. You guys have plenty of money. You've got some really interesting projects. You've got a lot of drill holes and things. I think your market cap is quite reasonable considering what you've got. So altogether, I'd never heard of the company before this. So it's news to me, but good news. I guess my one question, not an important question, but I'd like to know, you've got some patented claims. Now, under the current mining law, which I don't know if it's changed or not, those are basically freehold claims, are they not? That you can sell them as real estate, is that right?
Correct. They are private land, yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, so how many acres of patented claims do you have?
282. I would note that we didn't talk a lot about the property ownership, but on the patented claims, both Tyro and Banner are lease to own agreements, so we don't own them yet. We have an option to acquire them for 100%. Sheep Trail is 100% ours, so it's there's two different sets of land there, but yeah, that's the just as a for full disclosure.
No, and you've had a lot of excellent full disclosure with the expiry dates of the warrants and the strike prices, which often don't show up in people's websites. I find, I'm just wondering, academic question, in that part of the world, it's very desolate. What's an acre of ground go for? Or I should say 1,000 acres.
It's a good question. It hasn't gone up yet because of our activity. So, but I don't know, Rob, do you have a good answer on that? I don't have, I don't have a well-educated one.
Over the hill, it's probably $2,500 to $2,500 an acre.
That's amazing for such desolate land, really.
Well, it's pretty flat over there, and people are buying it for, for park their trailers and so forth as they exit California. So it's relatively cheap.
Okay, well, being in Argentina, I wouldn't think of $2,500 to $4,500 for that kind of land as being by any means cheap, but that's very interesting. Thank you.
Okay, great. EB, you've got a question. Go ahead.
Hey, Derek, good to see you in the chair, and your chart looks good. By the way, you're doing, like, back to October 1st, you're doing 1 million shares a day between the two markets, and obviously, like, you're wise to try to be gentle with the warrants and stuff, but I think, like, totally, realistically, you need to realize that you've got, like, we're just in this, like, America first bull market with a gold price of 5150, which is the DSM for crazy, by the way, 5150. But now's the time, to call the warrants and do a site tour, and, like, there's just all these, like, kind of gun-toting Americans that would love to come out there and, like, shoot firearms in the desert and own a piece of American gold. Forget about the fact that you've still got to do a lot of drilling and, office work to make that happen. But I'm just saying, seize the moment here, because, like, you've got the thing in these bull markets, like, this type of setup doesn't come around that often, as you well know, having, had a lot of experience. But, like, you got the crosshairs on this thing, like, pull the trigger, man. This is, this is looking pretty good. I think you could send this thing up, another chunk in the on the chart over the next few months for sure. And you've sort of got the setup already.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
All right, great. Okay, Derek, Rob, I think we're done with the presentation, so you guys can just hop off when you want.
All right, thanks a lot, guys.
Thank you very much,
Appreciate
guys.
it.
Great
Thank you for taking the
presentation.
time to hear our story.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Well, certainly a highly polished presentation compared to, of those we've seen, I thought. What do you guys think?
Well, I think they've got a lot of upside potential there for sure. Within the area that they're currently working, and the multiple other targets, and the Nevada projects also add upside. So lots of potential for value addition beyond where they are now.
Yeah, I'm glad, Brian, you mentioned those other projects, because there's a lot out there still.
Yeah, when I first looked at the company, they had decided internally to drill gold chain, and frankly, I didn't necessarily agree with that. I thought the other projects were really exciting, especially surrounding Round Mountain and the like. But they knew more than me. It certainly turned out to be the right way to go. What they've done so far, and even on that property, they've got a lot of upside left. So, yeah, I love the company. They had a bit of a management shakeup a few months ago, I guess, but Derek seems highly capable to me, as you've seen. He does a great presentation, knows not just the project, but everything around the area. Rob's, very encouraging of his depth of knowledge. So, yeah, I'm excited about it going forward.
And this is one you recommended in your letter for a while now.
Yeah, it's up about 3.5 times or so since we
Good call.
it's a good pick for us. But I still have it as a buy, because just Jefferson Canyon, I wish they would not have JP that out to Ken Ross, especially in that deal, because I think that's got a lot of potential. But like he said, the other two Nevada projects, either one of which could support a company of its current market cap with a little exploration success. And they have the potential at Gold Chain for another, for that 1 to 3 million ounce target, and perhaps another couple million ounces somewhere else, which would make it a multiple from where it is today.
Good. Any other comments?
I look at it and it's got about a US 150 million enterprise value. No real resource built up. 6-8 months ago, I'd looked at it and go, no way. But, honestly, I'm impressed with what they've got. I think the exploration upside is pretty darn good. The basin, what is that basin called? Frisco Graben. That still has a real good shot at depth. And I think there's upside on the other targets as well. So, in general, this looks like it's going to grow. I think, given the current market, it's a reasonable deal.
I'll weigh in and say, given the current market, it's got a $200 million market cap with no resource. And certainly this looks like a great project, but I wish I would have gotten in when Brian
Recommended it. You should subscribe to his letter.
This thing's had a 5-bagger since August. In the last 6 months, it's a 5-bagger. So I think there's some downside risk. We're all in this kind of bull market phase, and we expect that to continue, especially if gold's at 5,000 or above. But to me, there are some downside risks here. I'm also curious, these other targets, they've got 3 other targets that got somewhere 150 plus or minus drill holes in them. And these are long-lived projects. And the question becomes, with all those historic drill holes, where are the resource estimates? I was pleasantly surprised that they're going to have a resource out for Tyro by the year. And the question then was before, where are the resources here? So I think there's some downside. And for me, it's a stock that I would think has got away from me without ever knowing about it.
Hey, can I just jump in here? I'm sorry, Mickey, you said 200 million market cap. I'm confused. I'm showing 109 million shares out, 1.57, $1.57. So that's about 168 million.
Okay, well, so the
TSC,
corporate presentation they put out this morning, and it's different. It came out this morning, and it's different than the one that I looked at yesterday. There's 134 million shares, and that would include the private placement that closed $25 million at
Okay.
$10. So Adrian, I get 134.4 million shares from their updated corporate presentation. And I ran that out at the market a couple hours ago.
Gotcha. Well, Bloomberg's wrong then. They show 109 million.
Yeah, well, even the corporate presentation yesterday.
They updated it. Yeah.
So
Okay, well, that's useful to know, because there's a big difference between 168 and 200.
Adrian, the Bloomberg doesn't show the most recent placement, because it must have been self-brokered or something, but it only shows the June placement at 45 cents.
But apparently neither does the company yesterday.
Yeah, that's what's missing on the Bloomberg number.
Okay. They showed 110 million shares outstanding yesterday.
Yeah.
So, on the corporate presentation.
Not good.
Even TSX site has 2 different numbers for total shares outside. So who knows?
All right. I'll ask them about that. What else, guys? Anything else? Any other comments before we wrap up?
I was going to throw something in there about the fact that you look at their board of directors, It's very non-diverse. They're all serious people. There is no dead wood on the board. And that's unusual and favorable. And Derek himself, I was also impressed with the fact that he's got in his past, a technical background. He's not just a House Street financial guy. He was a metallurgist. So that all speaks well of the company, in my opinion. I've got to say that at some point here, I think I'll be a buyer of the stock and dump some stocks I've got that are promotions for this, which has got some reality. And I don't think it's overpriced.
They have a very strong IR group that they didn't really talk about either. The Axeman Capital Group.
That was Derek's, Derek's former in the Red Cloud days. I mean, he sort of saw it all with that, so he definitely knows how to spend the money properly.
Okay.
I thought it was interesting when he said that the Tyro main is valued at 800,000 ounces, but they are going to likely show 1 to 3 million, which is going to be a instant value addition.
Yeah, it says if you value it at 200 an ounce, right, in the ground.
Yeah.
Is that the right number, Mickey? $200 an ounce in the ground?
I don't know. I'll defer to Brent on that. That's
It's probably.
I'll tell you one thing that a couple of years ago, resources in the ground were somewhere around $20 an ounce. So this is the difference in the market we're in now than before this bull run started.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think that's a really good way to value ounces in the ground
No,
at all.
I
It's
agree.
kind of marketing bullshit. I think you got to look at the grade and the cost and all that,
Well, I think,
Yeah.
I think
That's
the
that's
200.
a big red flag if someone shows their ounces in the ground is only selling for $10 an ounce and everybody else is 200. Well,
There's a reason for that.
Well,
Yeah.
I
Well,
think too, when
Brent-
you get it,
Brent, you
Yeah.
have to be happy that all the optionality plays have gone away. There are no more optionality plays because everything is economic now.
incredible. Yeah, Highcroft is the big amazing.
Will Hycroft rise from the grave again?
$3,000 of margin makes up for a lot of mistakes and a lot of problems.
yeah, I think when you get up to $200 an ounce, you're talking about producers and developed companies as well.
Makes sense. Okay. Well, anything else, guys, or else we'll just wrap up?
That's
No?
good.
Okay. Good. Well, I'll be sending you guys invites for some more. We got, I think, another 3 on the schedule. So I'll send them to you over the next 4 or 5 weeks. So
Great.
thank you
Matt.
guys
See
very
y'all.
much.
Thanks,
Really
everybody.
appreciate it.
Thanks,
Take
Matt.
care.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.